Awesome. So hi, everyone. Thank you all so much for tuning in to this Product Buds Ask an International Product Manager panel. We're so thrilled to have you here to listen to 4 incredible international PMs speak to us about their product management journeys and how you can stand out in your PM recruiting journey as an international student and or international career professional. So before we start, let's just give a few housekeeping notes. Firstly, if you all have questions for the panelists, please use the Slido link that I just posted in the Zoom chat, and then type in the hashtag BUDS to be able to submit your questions to the panelists after the pre-submitted question portion of the event. Secondly, like I said before, this event is being recorded, so you can view the event afterwards on the Product Buds YouTube channel, so keep an eye out for that. And then lastly, post on LinkedIn with what you learned after the event. Tag all of our speakers, tag Product Buds, and then that way you can elevate your personal LinkedIn brand to show everyone out there that you are an aspiring product manager who's taking really proactive steps in their PM journey. So, I'm sure that our speakers will also leave comments, leave reactions on your post, and that will spread to their network as well. So it's a win-win for you and our speakers, recognizing them for their time. So without further ado, I would love to give the floor to our speakers to introduce themselves. Speakers, please tell us about, where your journey started. Things like, where did you go to school? What did you study? How did you end up in product management? What role are you in now? Just like on a high level. And then during the questions, we can dig deeper into your background. So Dr. Nancy, why don't you start?
Great. Hey guys, great meeting you guys. I know it's Sunday morning for most of you guys. We see lots of dedication. So quick introduction of myself. If you know me on YouTube, my name on YouTube is Dr. Nancy Lee. You can also call me Nancy. And I started my journey. I came to the United States 11 years ago for my PhD. A few years later, I became the youngest engineering PhD at Boston University with 14 publications. Then my first job was an engineer, and a few years into the engineering job, I really loved the business side of things. So I discovered the profession called product management. Then I focused on doing job hunting, networking. Within 3 months, I got 3 offers into product management, and then I became a product manager a few years ago at Verizon, working on using IoT and AI to help cities to reduce car crashes. And during COVID in April, I started to jump ship because I want to get into the leadership position. So I got 3 offers as a director of product, and right now I'm the director of product of edge computing and Cox Communication. Check out my YouTube channel to see all the latest tips about product manager interview and resume template, everything there. And also today I'm making a YouTube video about how I got my green card within finally 11 years in the US. Happy to share more about the green card and H-1B journey as well.
Thank you, Dr. Nancy. Pat, why don't you make your introduction next?
Right. Dr. Nancy, you set a bar quite high for me. So impressed with all the work that you do. So humble to be on the panel today. So, well, I'm Pat. I came from Thailand to Canada like 7 years ago in 2013. My background is actually not quite in product management, and maybe this is a good example for those who coming from a bit of a marketing and like business and then transition into product. So in university, I did a bachelor degree in marketing and entrepreneurship, and kind of learn about product management a little bit in university, but like never thought I would be able to get one. So my career, I actually started off in more of a offline marketing, doing marketing for like shopping center. I actually used to live in Victoria and doing like marketing for a shopping center out there. And then I kind of just moved up into more of a digital marketing specialist in a tech firm. And then and then went into more of an e-commerce and business specialist type role. So I think with my passion in retail and like consumer behavior and things like that, plus my ability to kind of look at programs, and during my time at Best Buy Canada, I was able to kind of use that data analytics and the business side of things to land a job at TELUS, which is a telecom company in Canada, just doing product management. So currently I'm a product manager for their Optic TV, which is the TV platform. So similar to like, I guess like Netflix and things like that. So what I look at is the personalization strategy and the roadmap of how I feed content to our customers. So in between marketing, data analytics, and user experience. So I'm pretty new into the role and might not have as much experience, but I do think that, with my non-traditional product management background would bring a different perspective to the panel. So great to meet you all.
Thank you so much, Pat. And next, can we have Vivek give your introduction as well?
Hey everyone, so I'm Vivek calling in from India. Um, I think it's really great to be alongside, speaking with Pat and Dr. Nancy. They've made really great contributions to the community. So let me brief about my journey. So I started as a computer science engineer, but didn't have any experience. Directly moved on to MBA, and my first experience as a product manager was I interned as an APM at Microsoft. So that kind of gave me what exactly product management is. So I did get selected for PPI, pre-placement interview, but I couldn't clear, because of the commonly used reason. I do not have much experience because I was a fresher directly, working as a APM for the first time. So post my MBA, I got into Samsung, but not exactly into a PM role. I was always interested in technology. So I was exploring, joining a product company, being part of a product company and contributing to building products. So I joined into the partnerships team. So basically what I did was I was looking at, different startups, technology startups, and how we can basically collaborate with these startups and integrate their technology as part of Samsung ecosystem. I did this for almost 1.5 years. So what I gained here was basically I built a strong network. I interacted with a lot of startups, a lot of founders. I understood what exactly or how exactly a business functions. And slowly I moved into a slightly different role wherein I did a little bit of business development. I worked on building a ecosystem in India for a standards organization, basically called OCF. So I did some ecosystem evangelism, community building, a little bit of business development. So I was working primarily on IoT, smart homes, and how basically you could enhance the ecosystem by onboarding more and more companies into the ecosystem. Because smart home is all about interacting with different set of devices around you. And then slowly kind of went to an internal training program, a product manager training program. And since I had built that strong network during my 2 years, I kind of got a good recommendation from one of the senior managers in the R&D side, engineering manager side. So that's how actually I got into product management, and I worked on a lot of different products. Then build a lot of services on smartphones, starting from Android, Tizen, which is Samsung's own operating system. And very recently, I moved into a different industry. I would say I worked as a PM in B2C industry. That's where Samsung is. Recently, I moved into a B2B industry, wherein I lead the product function for a company called HighRide. So I report into London office. So that's something which is relatable to this panel. How I got into an international role. So I work with most of the uh, international teams right now. The dev team is based in Europe, and business team is based in London, and the product or the product head is based out of US. So I've been having a lot of interactions with international teams recently, and it's a good role to kind of explore your product knowledge, because kind of lead the complete product function for India. So yeah, I think to summarize, that's been my journey now.
Thank you so much, Vivek, for your story and your introduction. That was great. And lastly, Qiqi, are you here in this Zoom room right now? Okay. I think she might be running a little late, but that's no problem at all. We can get started with another set of questions for the panelists that we have here today. So kind of going on the same topic of what our speakers have already stated, I think we would love to hear about, for each of the speakers, what has been your educational and career journey? What's that been like for you? And what are some of the highlights of that journey, and also some of the biggest challenges of the time that you've spent trying to break into product management? And maybe even how did you overcome some of those challenges? So Dr. Nancy, can you start?
Yeah, do you want to talk about only things related to PM or career in general, the challenges?
It could be whatever you prefer to share.
Yeah, let me share about the challenges first. And I think it will speak to lots of international students. And on top of that, there's also a life awakening moment to me. So one of this specific example, as I mentioned, I was the youngest engineering PhD at BU. That was the end. But when I started, it's very, very different. And also I see that as the biggest challenge. And actually I went to the fashion design school back in China. When I came to the US, I just really want to change my major and change my field into engineering. So clearly you guys can guess the first year and a half during my PhD journey was very difficult because my engineering knowledge was weaker than everyone else. But there was a specific incident really triggered me to send me to the right path. Now, actually my PhD advisor went into my lab within a year and a half at that time into my PhD journey. And she was like, I don't think you have the intelligence to get a PhD. You should quit. It was very true at the time. I was at the bottom, but the shocking moment was like, that's weird. And so if I quit, I just pack it up, go back to China. My parents never had money to send me here, so I just go back like a loser. It was true, I came from fashion industry, so it was hard. So it was like everything going through my mind. Then my PhD advisor just left. Then what I decided to do was I chased after her and block her in the stairs, like in just basically like storm in front of her saying that, okay, it's my decision to get a PhD, not yours. If I cannot get it, I gonna prove it to myself, not you telling me I'm not smart enough. And then afterwards, somehow things start to change. I got lucky, I guess. Then I became the youngest engineering PhD. I published 14 papers. So the message I want to deliver to everybody who is also on H1B or international student OPT stuff, do not let other people define who you are. Yes, you may not come from a place with privilege, has lots of help, has lots of money. I got nothing when I moved here, but when you think about where's your goal, is there anything you can try more? Is there anything you can help you to improve yourself, to be resourceful? And the glass ceiling can be broken if you use the right methodology. So that's actually the message I want to share with everybody. Should we go around to talk about the downturn first, or I finish everything about up and downs?
Yeah, that's a good idea. So thank you, Dr. Nancy. That was so powerful of a message, right? Because so many international students and career professionals right now are very worried about their job prospects, but not letting those challenges define you is so important. So Pat, can you share with us what are some of the challenges that you've had when you were in your career, breaking into product management and all of that?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think, one thing that I don't know how I forgot to mention this, but I'm also a founder of Empower International Students, where we help support them in career development in Canada. So I often talk more about like the webinars and in the webinars of like how international students should position themselves a little bit differently and the challenges, as well as providing mentorship program. So just want to put it out there because thank you, Henrika, for reminding me of who I am this morning. And so one thing, I think, I feel like there are a couple of things that international students face. And I think this apply with either you trying to break into product management or anything at all. I think the first thing is really the confidence. And sometimes when you're new to the country, you don't know the lay of the land too much. Most of the time, people just doubt you. And as international students, you really have to prove yourself, work a little bit harder, and also have to fight unfairly and be creative of what you how you go about things. So a little bit of a story, like when I first moved here, I know right away, okay, I kind of want to work here, right? And really trying to get an internship. So at university, I had to go through a co-op program where you also have to apply to go into this co-op and internship programs. One of the co-op coordinator or like the supervisor said to me, I'm like, hey, Pat, I don't think you're ready. Your English is not great enough. You just don't seem to be enough yet. So they kind of said no to me. And I'm like, you know what? Like, I kind of have to push back a little bit and say like, I know that my English might not be the best at the time, but I'm so willing to learn. I'm willing to take on the challenge. I'm 100% like going to get the co-op. And I was like super confident at the time. And then, yeah, they let me kind of get into the program. But what I wanted to say here is that international students like us, we do have a sense of like adaptability, right? Like you already moving here to a different country, you're already putting yourself out there. But most of the time it's like getting the skills that you need and proving yourself. One of the challenges I see a lot of international students face in university is that they don't plan their career or coursework like fast enough. And then you kind of realize in your third year or your fourth year of like, oh, I have to get a job out of school, but I don't have transferable skills. So how do I do that? So most of the time when you work in a new country, you're like, oh, you don't have Canadian experience, or you don't have experience in the States, things like that, right? And people would just say that, and then I'm like, I personally don't believe in it, because global experience or any experience, as long as you do and be able to prove it to them, it's still experience. So go ahead and like, whether you're in university right now or like about to graduate and or recent graduates, go get experience, like either volunteering experience, maybe go get an internship somewhere. If you can't get it through your university, you have to make it yourself. And like, we can talk more about how you could do that. But yeah, that's kind of my long answer.
No worries. Thank you for all that you're doing for international students around Canada, and really happy to hear that you're so honest, right, about these challenges that you've had, because I'm sure a lot of people that are in the audience right now can relate to the challenge. So Vivek, how about you? What were some of the toughest struggles that you were going through in either your academic or career life so far?
Mm-hmm. So I did talk about it a little bit while I was introducing myself. So basically, my first exposure to product management was when I interned at Microsoft, right? So I was very excited to be interning there, and I really liked what I was doing during my internship. But towards the end of it, I did get an interview offer, and I was interviewed for almost 3 to 4 rounds. And the feedback towards the end I got was, I didn't have enough experience to make it to the final offer. So that kind of demotivated me, and I was kind of I would say down for, because that was kind of my dream job. Wanted to get into Microsoft and work as a product manager there. From basically what I'd heard from everyone in my college, that was kind of one of the best places to be. So what I did was, I think I took some time reflecting, what might have gone wrong. A lot of my peers as well, kind of had this particular reason wherein you didn't have enough experience. So as a fresher, so soon after my engineering, I moved into MBA. I just had thoughts like, I should have uh, maybe worked for some time, before moving into MBA. I should have maybe worked as an engineer for 2 to 3 years, then move into MBA. So that kind of made me think about it a lot on uh, will I be able to ever get into product management, or is it possible? So I kind of started preparing, learning more about what product management actually is. Although I didn't get into product management, soon after my MBA, I kind of always had in mind. So as soon as there was a workshop or a training which came up, which was related to product management, I was the first one to enroll, as part of Samsung. So I kind of uh, steered my way through to the end goal. That's what I would suggest to everyone. Even if you are not able to crack a PM interview right now, you could definitely make it to it. Just have it in mind that you're working towards it. You might start as a business analyst, you might start in a product marketing role, but you should have this focus or a vision. You're going to reach that, even if it's not your dream company, even if it's not your dream role. Start working towards it. I think you will reach there one day. Yep.
Yes, that is definitely a message that all of us should be keeping in mind, right? Like, yes, you can interview for product manager roles and really chase after that. But if it doesn't work out in the situation where, for example, you don't make it past a certain interview round, that doesn't mean it's the end, right? You can try for another product role, maybe in like product marketing, or like Vivek said, like business analyst role or whatever it might be, and then transition into product later on. That's something that is a possibility that we should keep in mind, because when you get rejected, it's not necessarily a no, it could mean a not now. So that's a powerful message. Thank you for sharing. And then let's talk about the flip side of the coin, right? Each of the panelists, can you share some of the highlights of whether it be, your favorite memories in college, in your advanced degrees, or in your careers? What were some of the defining moments that really made you say, oh, I really love product management? And Dr. Nancy, you can go first.
Yeah, I can go for this regarding something I really love product management is actually two things. And first was that my first product, the real product management product in Verizon, was to help cities to reduce car crashes. It was really difficult product. I'm glad we pulled it out. And my product actually was awarded as a mayor's best practice in 2017. That's the moment when end users start to use my product and start to send thank you emails saying that, yes, we're using this today, we're using data to make changes. That's when I felt like, wow, I'm making a big impact instead of behind the scenes crunching data. So I want to see impact. That's where I fell in love with product management. Something else which recently I see product management and also as an entrepreneurial journey. Something very interesting happened was that, so starting from earlier this year, lots of people reach out to me saying, hey, Nancy, can you tell me how did you get promotion fast? How did you get into product management? Then I started to try to start my own company, which is to teach product management bootcamp on the side. But the way I ran my bootcamp, I treat it as a product. It was crazy that I didn't know the entrepreneurship and product management so overlap. They're like 80% overlap regarding how you run your startup. The other 20% is funding, right? That's product managers. You don't raise funding for your startup. That you usually have 2 years funding to run it, but for startup you have like 6 months runway, then you're done, or you take off, something like that. So that's a surprise, and also the highlight, because I'm a very entrepreneurial person. And that's another thing related to international student, was because when you are on H-1B or other kind of visa, you cannot start your own company unless you form like entity with another American, other stuff. So my entrepreneurial journey has been held back for a very long time. And finally, recently I got my green card and I got an EAD 2 years ago. Now I can try my entrepreneurial journey. It's surprisingly similar regarding product management. So I encourage everybody to build the skills of product management, because sometimes in the future, you never know. You want to start your own startup, then you find out it's 80% similar. It's crazy.
Wow. Yes, that is definitely really inspiring. A lot of aspiring product managers definitely have that like entrepreneurial spirit, right? Yeah. And what do you think that entrepreneurial spirit does for a product manager?
Very good question. So the entrepreneurial spirit, so make you care about how to drive the product and lead to revenue, make a bigger impact. Because as an entrepreneur, you're doing the same thing, revenue and impact, changing people's life. And also as a product manager, because we're leading without authority in most companies, you don't have people reporting to you. Now I have people reporting to me. When I got started, there's no authority, there's no real management. But if you have the entrepreneurial spirit, you always ask yourself, what kind of decisions would I make in this company, even if I don't have resources, I have people reporting to me, what skills do I need to learn? I immediately get answers. Okay, as the future CEO of my startup, I need to influence others. I need to do public speaking. I need to work with sales marketing team. I need to understand why they didn't understand what I'm saying, why we have different priorities. After you see yourself from an entrepreneur's perspective, everything was so clear and so easy for you to prioritize what you need to work on and why other people disagree with you. How can you influence other people?
Wow, that is so true. Like if you have that entrepreneurial spirit, you have a lot of those transferable skills and mindset that a product manager has. And I also want to ask, Pat, you are the founder of Empower, right? And so you probably also really have an entrepreneurial spirit as well. Do you think that has been a highlight for you in your product management career? Is that why you really enjoy the role?
Yeah, no, I was like nodding when Dr. Nancy was like, yeah, exactly. I totally agree. And I think one thing that if I can add on to that is one thing about having an entrepreneurial spirit and like being able to drive a company, it's more like the sense of ownership, right? Like when you have a sense of ownership over anything, it's like when you're a product manager, you're technically running your own startup where you're a CEO of that product, and the success of that product depends on you. So if you really care and you have a long enough vision, you'll be able to drive it, create more impact, drive more revenue, and really prove it to your company that you can. So with the entrepreneurial spirits, I think most of the time it has to do with like, you have to understand the different solutions that can come with to help you make the decision. Like when you're a product manager, at least for me, I feel like I constantly have to think about if I take option A and option B, what's the pros and cons here? And like if I were to drive this product to this end goal, which one should I take? It's very the same, like it's so similar to how the approach that I take with Empower. It's that there's so many different services and how we can go about solving the international student problem. But really, in order for me to strive in this market, or like to make sure that my product or my service is competitive enough, what are the different solutions I have to do? And I think another big piece is the people management. Like you really need to know how other people work in order for you to do your job well. And that goes almost hand in hand with how I manage my team. Like I need to know how their working style is, like what are the different things that they're looking for, what is their motivation in terms of working for Empower, how do I manage their workload and not overwhelming them with too much work. And I think it's really going back to like you care and you own it and show that to other people, right? Because you technically define what the success looks like and how you can get there.
Definitely. Those are really great ways that a product manager can be successful in their career. So thanks for sharing. And Vivek, how about yourself? What makes product management a role, a field that you enjoy working in?
Yeah, so I really agree, having entrepreneurial spirit is what kind of drives a PM. So being proactive and being self-motivated kind of what helps a PM. So one of the wow moments for me, at least being in product management, is whatever you worked on building, actually a customer uses and comes back saying that this was something I was looking for and I couldn't find it anywhere. And that's when you actually, feel whatever you worked on, the effort you put in for last, say, 3 to 5 months, or it can be even almost a year if you're working on a bigger product. So when that customer, comes back to you and tells that, this is it, this is what I was looking for. I think that's what kind of drives me, to build more and more, better products, deliver more awesome products to customers. So yeah, basically what I kind of look at in product management is I'm building something which ends up somewhere useful to a customer, even if it's just one customer, then I'm kind of motivated by it. Yeah.
Definitely. There's nothing better than users really coming back to you and saying, your work really positively impacted the way I use your product, like what Dr. Nancy was saying earlier, right? So this is very true. And kind of shifting over the questions to the advice that you all would have for our audience here, all the product buds and that are really thinking about their own careers, right? So I'd love to ask this question to you all. How can international students really set themselves apart when they are recruiting for PM roles to counter other factors that can put them at a disadvantage potentially, such as visa limitations? So Dr. Nancy, can you please start off with sharing your advice?
Yeah, I think there's mainly three things people need to take. And first of all is focus on what you can control. How can you become the top 1% candidate? And to be honest, for everybody who needs visa sponsorship, let's say there are two candidates, one doesn't need visa sponsorship, one is you. If you're equal, someone else get hired 200%. How can you be better even than American? This is brutal fact. This is also, I know it's challenging, but this is the only way to succeed. During COVID, there's not enough job opening out there. You gotta be better. Let me define be better. Be better means you need to do like product cases better, the product case interview, you need to do that better. And on top of that, you also the way you sell yourself, the way you present yourself, the way you do your 30 seconds elevator pitch, and it sounds extremely impressive within 30 seconds. I have a YouTube video talking about the 30 seconds elevator pitch. I can send it over to you guys. So many people have to show that you gotta be better than American, right? The step one. So step two is that you need to understand the different kind of like H-1B like visa policies. And for some companies, for example, like the big companies in general, they sponsor H-1B. So pay close attention, put more energy into really bigger company that you know they will sponsor H-1B. And so you will basically, the way you apply for job will be more efficient. And on top of that, when people ask you, hey, do you need H-1B and other stuff, sponsorship, you can make it very clear to them that if you're in the same field, I know your OPT is 3 years, you can tell that I don't need sponsorship for 3 years. You can just hire me without any like paperwork for 3 years. See if you like me, right? So in that case, you make the visa burden lower. Make 3 years later, make decisions so you can get in first. Once you get in, you do a kick-ass job. I know all the international students, you work harder than Americans. You never like let go of the jobs. Whatever. I believe once you get in, you can do a very good job. So figure out how we talk about the visa issue to get in. And third advice I have for all of you guys is that networking is critical. We talk about networking, everybody talk on networking. So the key part what I learned was that most people do not know how to do networking, right? Let me give you specific examples. Every day, at least 20 people request me on LinkedIn. I don't even have time to say yes, 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 yes. Sometimes you don't say yes, it kind of means, so it's weird, right? There's a question to you is that if 20 people request me per day, which is like 140 people per week, who should I say yes to? Right? So when you go networking, I've seen lots of people made mistake because I really want to help you guys. Whoever requests, usually I say yes and help out. And people were like, Nancy, I'm looking for software engineer job at Verizon. Can you pass my resume? I was like, first of all, you didn't send me a 30 seconds elevator pitch. Why should I help you? Because at 140 per week, hey guys. And second mistake, when they go networking is that, Verizon is huge. What position you're applying for? What's going on? Who should I pass it to? Should I spend an hour as a recruiter to see, oh, this candidate's resume fits this position in Verizon. Let me pass it over. What's going on? Are you thinking on behalf of me? Hey guys, when you go networking, thinking on behalf of other people, also random. And third, when you go networking, why you ask me to refer you for a software engineering job? I'm clearly a director of product. That's just out of my domain. What's going on is, hey guys, use the right networking strategy. We talk about networking, the most 95% people I met, they don't know how to do it. Regardless of your age, has a lot to do with how much you implement the right strategy, how much you learn, how much you improve yourself. That's top 3 strategies. One more bonus, whatever. Number 4 is that improve your English. If you're also H1B and other stuff, let me also define this improve your English. Lots of people use the wrong strategy. As I said, the wrong strategy, really, the worst advice is someone give you the wrong strategy. I have the worst advice regarding English earlier in my career is people will say, hey, Nancy, just watch lots of American movies. Once you watch hundreds of them, your English will improve. Hey, my English did improve by watching lots of movies, okay? The only way finally make huge difference in my English was I took some classes. I took like American advanced pronunciation, writing classes, all the possible English classes, and I also have tutor to teach me. Then I improved. Okay, so work on improving your English as an international student as well. Usually people don't tell you your priorities. Your priorities improve your English and use the right strategy. Yeah, strategy is very important as well. Okay, that's 3 plus 1 plus a bonus.
Wow, that feedback and advice was great. So for everyone that's listening in, drop in the chat like what you think about what Dr. Nancy said. Are these things that you're going to be able to do after the event? And also remember, like, simple things, right? Like including a personalized invitation on LinkedIn when you're connecting with any of our speakers, right? It takes 15 seconds to do, and you'll see your response rate increase so much more. And making sure to keep in mind that the other person on the other side has a limited number of hours to be able to help you, but how can you increase the chances that they'd be willing to help you, right? So that is a big part of that. Pat, can you also follow up and share whatever strategies, whether it be networking, recruiting for international students and or career professionals?
Yeah, for sure. And I might not be able to speak too much about the visa limitation. I think it also varies based on country to countries. But I really resonate with what Dr. Nancy just said about, like, if you have 2 candidates and they exactly the same, one who speak a little bit of better English and present themselves better, yeah, they get hired, of course. So as international students, we already know that we are kind of like a little bit less in that area. So you really have to be creative and strategic. So one thing that I really like, and I usually say this to people, is that you can teach people to be talented or knowledgeable or to teach them whatever, right? But you can't teach them to be hungry, and you can't teach them to be ambitious. And I think as international students, we have to make opportunity for ourselves most of the time. And really, I think what we should all do is like maybe leverage the creativity and the adaptability that we have. And I think being strategic and being different is fine, and you should embrace that. So one thing when I, what I did in my interviews most of the time is I always do more than what they ask for. When I get into product management, they constantly ask you to like, hey, do a case interview or things like that, right? Like a story that I wanted to share was that when the time when I kind of got into Best Buy Canada, like out of university and kind of like a it's not an entry level job. And I'm like, how am I going to get it? Because I'm an international student and I really, really want to get into e-commerce. So one of the things I did differently was that I networked like crazy. I had my eye on that position 6 months or even a year earlier than myself graduating. And I'm like, hey, I want to talk to everybody who has some sort of interaction with whoever in that role, right? So I already do my research there. Before I went into an interview, the interview was just, it's very easy, like behavioral questions, but I did much more than what they asked for. Like I start building a presentation deck and I said, hey, if I was in this role, I know that this role would require me to work with multiple brands and partners and trying to pitch them why they should work with Best Buy Canada. So I built a deck and I put myself in that position and say, hey, here's the research I've done on the company. Here is the reason why you should be working with Best Buy, and really showing them that, hey, I really care. I've done all my research. I am hungry. I really want this. And I remember, after getting into the position in the company, my hiring manager at the time to say like, hey, you know what, you were actually competing with someone who's have a lot more experience than yourself. But with that extra step that you took, it really showed that you will go extra mile for your job and your career, and that would take you really far in the company. Hence, that's how they got me in. Same thing with product management. I think, try downloading the products, try using it, try researching it, try everything that you can, and really be creative and prove yourself, right? That you can do more. And although you might not be from here, you might not present yourself as well, but hey, I'm hungry and I'm driven. So yeah, that's just a little piece of advice there.
Yes, that is just a golden nugget of wisdom right there, right? Because you can put on your resume that you're an ambitious leader and that you have really great like organization and really great presentation skills, but what can you do, right, to show them instead of tell them that you have those skills? And by creating something like a pitch deck or a case study or any piece of documentation really to show the interviewer, show the recruiter that you already have these skills and that you are qualified, and not asking for permission, but saying like, I believe in myself. Now it's time for this company to believe in me. That's really great. So thanks for sharing. And Vivek, how about you? What's your advice whenever an aspiring PM comes to you and says, what can I do? How can I stand out?
So I think I resonate with most of the things which are already mentioned by Dr. Nancy and Pat. So a few things I typically recommend an aspiring PM is you have to obviously put in that extra effort to differentiate, but how do you put in that extra effort? So you need to spend a lot of time on your CV. So that's one thing. You need to have your master CV wherein you have your complete list of points which you want to highlight. And what you have to make sure is you have to research about each and every company where you're applying, and you have to kind of customize your CV, which basically fits into that company. For example, company is is a core technology company, then you need to have some points which kind of highlights that. Maybe put in a short portfolio. So portfolio is something I typically I personally follow, and I also recommend. So I suggest you have a specific section on portfolio in your CV, which basically highlights your work. It can be in the form of a small pitch deck. It can be in the form of a case study which you have solved and where you come up with really top recommendations, or it can be a detailed PRD where you have showcased all your product skills. So it can be in the form of blog, or it can be just a link to a shared drive wherein you put in that extra effort to already showcase your product skills, PM skills, so that when hiring manager is basically shortlisting different CVs and they came across your portfolio section, they go to that link and they kind of get what is your approach and solving the problem. So that kind of adds value and differentiates it. And another recommendation or suggestion which I typically uh, uh, put forward to aspiring PMs is whenever you go into PM interviews, so the behavioral questions are what are the most tricky ones. So typically you might be asked something like tell me about yourself, or why product management, why this company. So since these are most frequently asked questions or common questions, you need to obviously rehearse a lot on what you're going to put, how do you answer these questions, how you're going to highlight yourself. And also there is one question which is basically talks about towards the end, do you have any questions for us? So that's something where the recruiter is kind of trying to understand, have you done some research about the company, do you have any questions for us? So that's where you actually put in that extra effort. You research about the company, list down what you like, what you don't like. If you have some recommendations, if you've thought of some of their products not doing well, or something is lacking, you can bring that up during the interview. That kind of also differentiates you from rest of the candidates. So yeah, that's what I wanted to add.
Awesome. Thank you, Vivek. And Qiqi is our fourth speaker. She just joined. Can you please briefly introduce yourself and let us know what your advice for an aspiring product manager would be?
Okay. Can you hear me all okay?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks everyone for joining us. My name is Qiqi Shastri and I'm a PM at Panasonic USA, North America. So a little bit about my background. I am originally from Mumbai, came to US to do my bachelor's in electrical engineering, graduated and started working as a controls engineer, but started my MBA part-time. What I realized was my passion for marketing, products, management, and all these different fields that in electrical engineering did not expose me to. So I started pursuing different roles, and that's what brought me to Panasonic and more front-facing engineering role. And what I want to say, one advice I would like to give to members here, thank you for joining. Number one, don't give up. Number two, we are here to help you. That's what I liked about LinkedIn. When I opened up, the world opened up to me. So please ask questions. And number three, I would say that get clarity on what you would like to do. And we will talk about this more as we go through the interview.
Definitely. Thank you so much for joining us today. And now we're going to take 10 minutes to go over the Q&A portion of the event. So if you haven't already submitted your questions, please go to the Slido link that Henrika posted earlier to submit your questions and upvote your favorite ones. We're just going to go in order here, and any questions that we've already covered, we'll just skip those for the sake of time. So the first question is going to be, do you get OPT STEM extension while working as a PM at a tech company if you study CS at university? Do any of the speakers know the answer to this question? Dr. Nancy? Oh, you're on mute.
Great. So I'm not a lawyer, disclaimer, I'm not a lawyer, verified with your lawyer, but I have been through this before. It works for me. For example, this happened to me when I was a PM at Verizon. I got STEM extension, even if my PhD was in material science. Hey guys, there's two different things, clearly two different things. Smart cities, AI, and PhD in material science. Two different things, I still get extension. And the same thing for my green card as well, because those two are different. But when I apply for my green card, I still trying to make a case saying that those two are related. But there's also the truth behind it is that everybody tell you the best case scenario, the final result, but lots of difficulties behind it. For example, when I applied for my green card, I talked to 5 lawyers. 4 lawyers says that no, we cannot make connections between material science and like product management, AI stuff. No, and finally 1 lawyer said yes. But the whole process is very crushing my confidence. And everybody said, no, you can't. You have to be an engineer. You need to go back to be like a researcher at the university, then get green card first. Then you go back to product management. But I don't want it. I'm already in a leadership position. I at that time already managed senior product managers. I was like, why go back? No, come back. It doesn't work. But the key is that I spent a year just trying to talk to different lawyers. I also have my best friends as my accountability partner. She's not a lawyer at all. She doesn't know she's American. But she was like, Nancy, we should keep trying. It's whatever the alternative path is so bizarre. So my message to all of you guys is that take all the visa and green card, all the OPT, whatever thing you're trying to do, your own responsibilities. Don't just listen to one lawyer, one person, whatever. They are not the authority. The key is that can you be resourceful? Can you also think on behalf of them, trying to create a case to make it work? So I believe that whatever extension you talk about in a tech company as a PM, I believe it can work unless you work on something too far away, like marketing and CS, a little bit too far away. I think technical PM is related to computer science. I'm not a lawyer, but you need to continue to explore and talk to many lawyers. I have many stories about the lawyers. Check out my YouTube video. I'm gonna make one tonight about all the visa stuff. Yes, the first answer is yes, personal opinion.
Thank you for sharing that, Dr. Nancy. Once again, disclaimer, she's not a lawyer, so speak to your lawyer, speak to someone who is well-versed in that area to get more clarification. Yeah. And then we're going to skip the next 2 questions because we already covered them in our panel earlier. But this question from Joanne right here, would you please tell us some tips for people who want to pivot their career? What can we do if your background is not CS? So can one of the panelists speak about if you have like a non-technical background, what would be your advice to an aspiring product manager?
I can take that one. I think for me, I didn't really come from a technical background. I'm the least technical person. And I think that has pros and cons to it. I think the main piece is that I was coming from a marketing and e-commerce background and a lot of business area. So what I find really helpful is that I start looking at the job description and like getting more resources into like what a product management role would be. So I kind of take out a few skills that product manager job requires, and I work backward. I reverse engineer it where, okay, I know that I have to kind of look at prioritization. I know that I have to kind of learn more about certain area technicality and stuff like that, right? So then I leverage my current position at a time to then say, I want to do more projects of this. I want to manage this program certain ways. I wanted to kind of get the experience that I could use in my next interview and really write it on my resume, right? Because at the end of the day, you need to get the skills first in order to speak about it. So you need to, figure out a way and be strategic enough to be like, hey, I want to focus on, prioritization. I want to focus on forecasting. I want to focus on like all of these type of like product management type skills and try to get that as much as possible.
Definitely. So thank you. Yes, Dr. Nancy?
I just want to second what Pat said. Perfect. That's exactly I would say. I just want to bring out something we need to emphasize, and lots of people will miss what she said, because I've experienced teaching people something similar, is that you need to gain the skills before you even take on the job. Straightforward, because product management is experience-based job. Learn how to do prioritizations and find opportunity, right requirements as much as you can. Of course, you cannot do everything about product management before you get a job. Do as much as you can, learn the skills, because right now it's very competitive. It's one of the hottest jobs in the market right now. Do that before you even get a job. That's what Pat is saying, make sure you execute. I know I told lots of people tips, they don't execute, so I want to emphasize again.
Definitely. So on to the next question. Does any of the speakers here, do you have any tips on how to find out which companies are friendly to international applicants besides checking E-Verify status?
Yeah, I can take that one. So I have 2 points on this one, and I have used these points. Number one is use help of your alumni club, right? Where have your previous graduates gone? Which companies they joined? Example, in Chicago, they joined Boeing, they joined, GE. So now I know that these companies do accept international. Number two, reach out to your alumni members. Talk to them and say, you're graduating and I'm looking for a particular role. What is your advice? Take A, on the company, the culture, and B, can you help me navigate to find the person with my career role, right? Like you could reach out to somebody in accounting, but you are into finance, they can recommend you somebody. And number two is LinkedIn, right? You can network in LinkedIn. So that also tells you which companies are hiring, because if they are working at a certain company and you knew that they are from your school or they are from your friend circle or friend network, then you know that those companies are hiring too, outside of your city area, outside of your school area.
That is a really great strategy right there. I didn't even think about it that way, but it is absolutely brilliant. It makes it easier.
So I am part of Northwestern Alumni Club, and it is a great resource for me because I took a certification at Northwestern, and that opened up the entire alumni club to me. And I'm like, hey, I have taken this course at Northwestern. What did you take? Where are you working, etc. Right? It opens up the entire conversation for you because you have something in common already.
Most definitely. Thank you, Qiqi, for sharing your advice on that. So we are at time, but I know that there's a couple questions left. So panelists, can you all share with everyone here, what is the best way for our Product Buds community members to reach out to you with any additional questions that they have?
LinkedIn?
I think we all just gonna say LinkedIn or something. Yeah, LinkedIn. Yeah, if you ever wanted to talk more about things, feel free to send me a personal note, and would love to connect.
Yes.
Yeah, I would say same thing. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I am pretty responsive with all my messages, so I will be more than happy to help you and navigate your questions.
Fantastic. And Vivek and Dr. Nancy, is it LinkedIn the best?
Because I have too many LinkedIn requests, we can do both. So do LinkedIn and Instagram. I have fewer people messaging on Instagram, so Instagram is better. So you have the competition wise, but LinkedIn is also good. Do both.
Yep, LinkedIn is good.
Great. Well, speakers, all of you gave so much great advice, so much great wisdom to our audience. And everyone that's here, give a Zoom react with a clap emoji to give thanks to all of our incredible speakers here today. And we're very much looking forward to seeing what everyone here is able to do in their career journey. So with that being said, if you would like to stay in touch with other international students and international career professionals, there's a brand new channel that I just created in the Product Buds Slack workspace. So if you go to channels and you browse the channels that we currently have, one of the ones that was just added is called International PMs. So go to that channel, introduce yourself, and connect with other people who are also in the same situation as you, looking to break into product management. That's all that I have for you all today. So thank you again to our speakers, our audience, for tuning in on a Sunday. Wherever you are from around the world, we appreciate you being here. And thank you for spending your time with us. Great.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. And we also have another event Later today in the Product Buds community, it's going to be a roundtable discussion about the new Netflix documentary called The Social Dilemma. So if you're interested in joining in that conversation where we talk about the impact of social media and products that we use every single day on mental health, on society, and what we can do as product managers to really create products that are ethical, we'd be happy to have you. That event is happening at 5 p.m. Eastern time. So if anyone's interested, it's just happening in a few hours, and the link to sign up is in the announcements channel on the Product Buds Slack. So see you all there if you'd like to join. Great. Thank you very